Hello and welcome back to the OPL. Pentanet.gg taking now the split lead 2-0 versus the Chiefs. That means that if they end even, they're just ahead of them on the ladder. And what an impressive showing from the young lineup from WA. Rusty, before we break down the game in its totality, I'm a little bit of a math guy. When I think about itemization, I like to run the numbers. I like to do the figures. I know that you're a little bit more of a gut feel, intuition guy. But I just want to ask you a question. If your primary carries are an Azir, a Farm and Karma, as well as an Ornn, how many Black Cleavers should you buy to augment that magic damage?
I would say the answer to that is one maximum if your physical damage is ahead. And they weren't. There was the Lee Sin that was. I personally, and we were talking about this, think that lethality would have been the better option. And that could have been for both of them, for the Senna in the bottom lane and for the Lee Sin in the jungle role. But I also, and this is my feel anyways, I would have preferred the Frozen Mallet Grass build from the Senna in the first place. Just because I think that provides more, right? You don't need the Black Cleaver. You still get the health then, and that seems to be the reason that you would be building that.
Now, Chips, you didn't name names earlier, but were the people that were following the incorrect guides and not going to Mobify the Chiefs players in your games, or is this an unrelated story that just happens to be a happy coincidence?
I mean, after that game, maybe Mobify wasn't even used. Maybe it was, I don't know.
That's one of the games where you look at someone else's history and you go, I'm just going to copy that build. But, Juice, I know you weren't happy with the draft in general. What did you not like about it?
Well, it's just so volatile in the sense that, your best player, arguably your best player, Claire, is on it is somewhat of a negative matchup, right? Like once you break laning phase and then you get out of lane, Claire really has no agency in that game anymore. Cassidy just takes over. And then, Tien on Ornn, yes, it is one of his most played this season, but we're supplementing it with a bot lane who is not really that, weathered. They haven't been together for that long. And we're playing something, or Chiefs are playing something as volatile as Senna Karma. It is so volatile. I was talking, if they die once, it's over. They died once, they died 3 times after that. And so, what your identity was, you've gone against, and you've drafted towards a bot lane who is fairly new. And really, they just got schooled, right? It was a lesson in laning in bot lane, and they didn't have many tools to come back from that. But I think that whole draft could have been a lot better to suit the Chiefs.
But, Rusty, I know that you're really happy that that's where Pentanet chose to attack, and you were really complimentary when we were watching the game of how well Praedyth and Rogue went at Dragcube in particular.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things to this, right? I think that the laning phase was fantastic. I love the choice of the Ashe Thresh to be able to punish in that lane. But I think, even a step beyond that, the places where Pentanet.gg needed to improve, by picking this bottom lane, they did. Because then they had a mid-game, right? They had an Ashe that could throw arrows into lanes, and they had places they could attack. And they started winning team fights when the Cassidy was level 11, They didn't sit back and give opportunities to their opponents until they hit the mystical level 16 point. So that, to me, was a very clear recipe for the future of what we should see from Pensanet more often.
Yeah,
and that does.
I'm curious, Spawn. There was one final thing I wanted to add in the sense that I think Katsuri is insane, and as you touched on, Draku's still getting to grips with the support role, making a transition in. But they've played the center 3 times. He's never actually got a win as the center, and I would love to have just seen him just play something a lot more aggressive. You saw in the banning phase they targeted so much towards Praedyth, but it actually came back to haunt them as well, right? Denied so much of what is good for Katsuri, and it sort of led them to the option of, can we play Misfortune or Lucian? And I don't think that would have changed the game state.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the classy bottom lane, you certainly don't want to be fighting in the mud that is Senna versus Ashe bottom lane. You probably want an Aphelios matchup in there somewhere. However, guys, that is going to be Pentanet.gg now being outright second on the ladder, only to Legacy. But enough of League of Legends. Let's open the Spawn bag.
That nose was as big as mine.
Oh, that is so good, mate.
I'm adorable.
That's perfect.
I am genuinely adorable.
I was worried that we'd
around.
still have Nick there, so that was good. That was good.
All right, question number 1 from Wheeler. My parents want me to ask my friends for assistance with something. They're not asking for a favor and will pay. I just feel awkward. Any advice?
My parents want me to ask my friend for assistance with something. This is a very vague question.
Very much so.
No, okay. Well, firstly, it comes down to how close you are with this friend, right? Because what it sounds like, if this is awkward, you may not be friends with this person at all. Because if I'm friends with someone and I needed Jake to come do the plumbing in my toilet, I'd be on speed dial. Jake, come do my
So the
plumbing,
way-
please.
So the way I'm reading it, it's like my parents need the favor of you, right?
Yeah.
So, like, let's pretend that Juves is the best sausage maker in all of the western suburbs
Can I go
of
on the record
Victoria.
and say that we actually are? We do make our own sausages and salami.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And so my dad is like, my sausage hasn't been up to scratch. Hey, Jake, can you ask Juves to come over and make sausage with me?
Yeah, I do. Like, they wouldn't even be like, what? I wouldn't even make you pay me though.
Maybe maybe we're from a
Different-
specific group of people
I
that.
don't know. For me, I just don't really understand the question. It feels a little bit too vague to me.
So let's say that it's like a business that the parents are starting and they want a logo design
Yeah.
or something, right? So now they're reaching out to this person who is a professional designer to get it done, but they're a mate of your kid. So I think that's what we're looking at because it's like a paid service.
Well, the only way I would say that it's weird, potentially, or awkward, I should say, awkward is the word he used. The only way I would feel awkward is if my parents didn't want to pay him. But the fact that I'm paying my friend for his time, it's just like a business transaction. No
It's fee for
feelings.
service.
Yeah.
Nothing
only,
there. Ask your friend.
The only example I have is one of my flatmates, an artist, really, really talented, right? And my mum wanted to commission some art for when they renovated the living room. And they're like, oh, can you ask him? We'll pay, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, no worries. So I think it comes down to, that friendship level, if you know them well or if you don't.
All right, cool. Next
Just
question.
ask.
We're just saying just ask.
them. Yeah.
John Candle writes in, and this one's a little bit more basic, guys, so bear with it. Best colored underwear.
That's it. That's the whole question.
Okay. I'm going on the record and saying it's not white.
I
It's just-
agree.
It's not
unnecessarily
white.
risky, isn't it?
Whitey tidies are an absolute
No.
mistake, eh?
Let's just say that. I think black with a different colored like elastic. If you know what I'm saying, like
yeah,
'cause
I get it.
I got what brand is it? I think they're Calvin Klein ones like that.
You are a Calvin Klein model. Question. Shorts? Underwear shorts?
Yeah.
Or jocks?
Oh, shorts. Jocks give chafing.
Shorts.
Briefs, yeah.
Jocks give me
Okay.
chafing.
No, there's like
I
the
got
there's
thunder
the
thighs.
small, there's the medium, and then there's the large ones. I think medium is like the
Yeah,
best.
medium. So they're just
Yeah.
Rusty, we're right. That's because if you do sports or athletics or whatever, they're the perfect size to minimize chafe.
He's
Okay.
right.
Maxing even his clothing, I like that. Colors, I don't know. I like patterns, much like, there's like fancy socks where they've got like, dino patterns or like bananas or whatever it might be. I like that on the underwear as well, right? bit of spiciness, mate, You're feeling yourself.
Banana underwear,
Feel good.
okay.
Why do I have a
Absolutely,
feeling,
mate.
dude? Why do I have a feeling that Jake wears those white jocks, like saggy jocks,
I
like fat
definitely
jocks? Yeah.
I will take my
I'm just
pants off and
picturing
prove
it
it
now.
right now. I will take my pants off and prove it right now. I'm also a shorts man. Okay.
Hello Kitty undies, yeah, mate. Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with Hello Kitty. Okay, so we're all in agreement, not white, and they need to be the trunks.
Yeah.
Okay, third question. Unknown. Rusty. I went to the gym this week, and everything hurts so much. I've tried stretching. I've tried deep heat. Please help me.
Oh, this is great. So people may not even know this, but there's three people in here that are equipped to answer this question. Two of them being Juves and Spawn as well. My answer
Sorry,
to this
Spawn.
is you've already made the mistake, right? You've gone to the gym. You've
Too
gone
hard,
so
too
hard
early.
that everything is hurting. If you're taking months off, you're not meant to just jump back in and expect to be where you were. You shouldn't even expect to be 75% of where you were. You should start somewhere around 50, get a feel for it again, let your brain get used to it again, and then build back up. So you've made the mistake. Now you've just got to try and deal with it as best you can, stretch as best you can,
Yeah.
and just
Well,
grunt and take it.
there's two things for me. The two things that I would give you, or three things. First thing would be ice, because ice is good. Because when you go to the gym and you do weights, what's happening is you're getting microfiber tears, and that's what happens. And so then there's going to be like inflammation there, and icing is good. Second thing would be light stretching, because if you stretch too much, you're going to tear those fibers and it's not going to recover because you'll get stiff. And then the third thing is just be active. You're really sore, but go out for walks, try and jog a little bit, because the worst thing you can do is just sit there, hunched over, crippled, get stiff, get tight, and then you'll never go to the gym for a week.
I know the difference between muscle soreness and when you've actually
Injured.
gone so hard that you've injured like tendons and stuff like that. Because generally if you're hurting within your elbows or you're hurting behind your knees. It's not even muscle soreness at the moment. You're just going so hard that you're stabilizing your tendons and stuff and you need a rest. Okay. I think we have time for maybe one more. They be Percy. How do I feel like an adult and not a goat hiding amongst sheep, pretending I know what I'm doing and got my shit together, and not in fact running off pure, unsustainable momentum, hoping I don't fall? Skimmy, how?
Everyone just does fake it till you make it, right? I think for me, it's all about finding a passion and just fully investing in it and being so caught up, so deep into that passion that you forget about all these insecurities of like what social media portrays, right? Like Instagram is so fake. Everyone's like, you know, putting in, this is my life, I do this, it's so cool. And if you buy into that too much, you are going to be insecure. You are going to take yourself out of momentum. So I think you find a passion, you go fully into it. You don't listen to the outside negativity. Everyone's always got advice for others, but you know, just focus on yourself. I think it comes with age and maturity, right? Just experience.
Finally, oh, sorry, Rusty.
No, you're good, man. You go.
Funnily enough, this happened to me not too long ago. I think I was in the same boat as you. And the thing that I realized is that you're on your own journey. And if you start comparing your journey to others, then you'll really never be happy or have like fulfillment. And so like everyone's journey starts at a different point and ends at a different point. And where you are now could be different in 10 years. And the people that you were looking at in admiration or considering an adult, you're probably ahead of them in 15 years if you do what you wanted to do and work hard enough. So I think like put the blinkers on, focus on your journey only, and stop looking left, stop looking right, just go forward.
Yeah, there's the other thing that I would have said to that as well is like realizing that you're not the only one doing that or feeling like that will help as well. Like have those friends or recognize those people you can speak to. Skimmy mentioned the fact that everyone tries to impress on Instagram, and those expectations that come with it can make you feel like you're a goat amongst the sheep. But everyone's doing the exact same thing as you, and we're all feeling the same way, you know? So like recognizing that you're not the only one doing it does make it easier.
Except for me, I'm a child. So the other option you have is just find someone that is an adult that will look after you. And then you stay up playing video games and eating cookies when you shouldn't be. And Jenna's just unfortunately got 2 kids at the moment. But yeah, as everyone said, kind of on your journey. Just make sure you're not overthinking it. And if you do need help, reach out to someone because obviously there are people that you can talk to about it. However, guys, that is the spawn bag for this section. Talking about people doing things that they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. Order is running a Valorant tournament at the moment. So it's going to be the first half of one of 2 VIS tournaments presented by Logitech G, the Valorant Ignition Series. As the global Valorant Ignition Series gets underway, we're excited to announce the first of 2 massive oceanic stops. Promised to be an epic format with a Swift's open bracket. Tournament will field 3 rounds of that Swift open qualifier designed for up to 1,000 teams from Australia and New Zealand. The open qualifier will run from the 3rd to 13th of July, from which the top 16 teams will duke it out through a double elimination group stage on the 17th to the 19th of July. Single elimination best of 3 playoffs on 22nd to the 25th of July. Sights set on a grand final taking place on Sunday the 26th. All stages of the tournament will be streamed on Order's Twitch channel and will feature a diverse mix of casting talent in Oceania. Community casters, make sure you please get involved. Reach out to us because we want you to be able to stream this also on your own channels using a custom asset pack. Huge thanks to the guys over at Valorant as well as Order for putting this on for Oceania. It should be insane, I hope. A little bit worried about it. However, on the flip side, we've got another game of League of Legends coming up. It is going to be Avant Gaming taking on Mammoth. Both of these teams coming off very strange games. Mammoth picking up the dub. Avant unfortunately falling down. Going around real quickly. Rusty, who wins this one?
I mean, it has to be AV. I always find myself surprised if Mammoth win, but you know what? They've got some momentum spawned. Maybe they can. Maybe they can.
Juice?
I think AV win. Ahmed Pappy's been having too good of a split, and I think Lisa, Ahmed Pappy, I think they've just got it covered.
Has Lisa finally turned it on, Juice? Is this what you would expected when he first came in?
Yeah, Lisa, I think now is not just mechanics. He's actually thinking about the game when he's pathing and doing things on the map that that he's thinking about with his team, and yeah, it's the evolution.
Skimmy, quickly, who you got?
AV, I think the top side of AV's draft is far, far better than their counterparts, but I think the bot lane is where all the spice and the action happens.
I'm going 2 for 2. Mammoth, baby. However, we are ready for the Macca's champion select, guys. Take it away.
So this will be the second game against AV for the split, and I think in our first round against AV, we kind of got stomped, and hopefully we can get the win against them this weekend.
I think the playstyle Avant have been playing with in the last couple of weeks has been exciting, and hopefully both our styles will clash and we'll have a fun game when we play them.
I think Avant is a very good team. I think they work together very well as a team, so I think these will be pretty good games.
I think our game against Avant will be really hard because they have improved a lot during the split, but hopefully we can take a win.
So yeah, tonight we play against Avant, the LPL specialists. So against Avant this time, I'll probably need to quit my father's torso and go to battle with them, and hopefully we can come away with a victory.
That's it. We're ready to rock and roll into game 2 of the day. Avant Gaming look on to take on a new and improved Mammoth, finding victory yesterday up against Gravitas, and it becomes the question as to can that first step turn into a walk, turn into a run, maybe a jog in between. Will they get sore muscles, Juves? Will you have the answers for them?
The first thing I want to say is we're well into Champions League. We're deep into Champions League. No wasting time here. So, interestingly enough, we're seeing a lot of priority on the Twisted Fate in the OPL this week. You know, Chungi picking that one up, Baz with the Callista set as well. So, really liking the draft on the side of Mammoth. And if we look at Avant's draft, we're seeing Lisa with the Graves. And this is something that, you know, he's put a lot of time into. And what I would say maybe is one of his best champions. We saw him played against Order last week and really put on a clinic. So, Aphelios Nautilus locked in as well. And these are pretty much like what we expect from Avant Gaming, right? These picks here is what we come to know from them. Real skirmish heavy, early game focused team.
I think there was going to be no contest or no misunderstanding that Callista was going to be a hot pick to really discuss between the two of these, and Blobra and Guncrab very much keen whenever the opportunity is afforded to them. Will be the Guncrab coming in here as opposed to Violet.
Yeah, but
so
this
is
is
the variation coming to this roster.
And you know what's interesting is most times we see AV play, they play for a heavy push bot lane, one that will take tower very early on. And this is one of the few times we see them lock in a lane that doesn't necessarily want to hit tower, necessarily take tower at 10-15 minutes, but he wants to go for the 2v2 and play for the fight. So maybe this is what we see with Guncrab and what we don't see with Violet, right? Maybe this is why we see the swap in and swap out of ADCs. Maybe there's just a varying playstyle that API prefers to play with them.
Certainly is. Definitely going to have two very insane kill lanes bot. And what already comes to mind for me is that Avant ran into this exact same situation against Pentanet yesterday, in the sense that they had to verse into a Twisted Fate. We touched on it briefly last game. Both lanes looking to be aggressive, looking to find some love and action. If Twisted Fate comes into the fold of things, it's going to be a little bit scary. But, we talked about the mid lane matchup. It is still Chungi getting himself into the mix of things here, making it from OCS into OPL. But you give Chaz somebody like the Zoe, and he's going to have a ton of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Most Oceanic mid laners have a very high proficiency on Zoe. It's one of those champions where I think if you get blasted by it enough times, you just say, you know what, I'm going to invest into this champion. And I think we have some very good Zoe players in this region, and it's going to be nice to see, Chaz versus Chungi in this matchup. It is actually a matchup that was played earlier today in TL versus Cloud9, and the Zoe ran rampant over that game. So going to be keeping my eyes on this matchup and seeing if Chaz can do the same thing.
And obviously the biggest outliers we missed, given the fact that we came into the draft halfway through, is some of those pocket picks that really proved so successful in getting Mammoth that first win have been denied away. It was the pick for Yasuo, Chungi's arguably best champion, and the Nico that Lived used to give them all the access to make Yasuo work. What's interesting for me is we are going to get the debut here from Paprise onto the Volibear. It'll be a new one for him into his arsenal, but going up against a Kayle, you'd imagine that Paprise should definitely have the early stages, so much strength, so much brawling potential, but if it does go late, Mammoth just scale out of the world.
Yeah, well, now I was talking to some OPL players about the Volibear in the top lane, and we were trying to figure out, or they were trying to figure out what type of counter picks Volibear had. Because if you look at Volibear in solo queue, it does run rampant, it just wins lane, and and it takes over a game, right? But, you know, in a competitive professional setting where things are much slower and there's a lot more thought that goes behind plays, then potentially we don't see the same snowball from a Volibear. But, you know, Kale in my mind is, you know, they're going for the same thought process of, you know, Kale into Ornn. Okay, well, let's do Kale into Volibear and let's just get that free scaling lane and take over the game. But the one thing I will say is that Volibear has slightly more mobility than the Ornn, right? You know, Volibear can just skip that whole phase and jump straight on top of Kale with the ultimate. So have to keep an eye on that lane and see how that plays out.
Well, that we will indeed, Juice. We're going to jump into game number 2 with Avant taking on Mammoth. Avant on the blue side and Mammoth on the red. You can obviously see both looking to try and play around the bot side of their draft, and I'd say for Mammoth here, they're going to want to ensure that the bottom half of their draft comes online well and truly to give themselves enough time, breathing room, space to allow Liv to scale on up, because if Avant find themselves an early lead, the skirmishing potential that all 5 possess means they could truly run away with this.
Well, the Twisted Fate actually makes a bit of sense here too, because, you know, in my mind, right, the Volibear is going to disable turret, enable Lisa to come topside, dive lived on the Kale, but if you have Twisted Fate ultimate up and you can cheat tempo a little bit, then potentially we see, you know, their dive get punished, and maybe the TF is just kind of a safety net for the Kale until Kale gets online.
We've seen so many games now. I believe actually every single game we've seen the Volibear come out, it has been into a Kalista, and we've seen many of those occasions, be it those 2 champions in particular, have been the ones that are insanely fed, and the Volibear very much reliant on the likes of his flash to unlock those plays. Has opted for the PTA variation here today. I've seen a bit of discussion as to whether or not Phase Rush would be better for him, but I think just from a skirmishing potential, from a laning state, as opposed to playing him as a jungler, makes a fair bit of sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, but you've also got to consider, like, how often is Volibear going to be in range long enough that he's able to proc PTA, right? Like, as opposed to the Phase Rush. Again, I don't have the answer. I'm not a Volibear connoisseur. I'm not exactly sure if the Phase Rush or the Press the Attack is better. I'll leave that to the top laners to tell me.
Well, we'll see exactly how things play on out here today. Obviously, top lane is one of great interest, but it's going to be a case of Lisa, given the fact that Graves has been let through, is able to try and find himself some success for this one to get the ball rolling. There have been definitely games where Lisa has opted for these aggressive junglers, the likes of Lee Sin's, Jarvan's, the Lisas spring to mind. Well, for some very early ganks to try and get these guys online very early on.
Yeah, I mean, Lisa is an aggressive player, right? One of the junglers that, you know, does get involved in your jungle, does try to take camps away from you, so won't be surprised if we see, you know, Lisa clear his jungle out here, but more importantly, put pressure on Baz on the set. Set for me is a champion who isn't the strongest early, especially when you compare Set to a Graves in the jungle. Graves is going to have a much better time in these skirmishes, so keep my eyes on that matchup and see if Baz is allowed to get to his Cinderhawk first.
Well, doesn't seem to change the tune at this stage, as it will be another Set jungle getting invaded on, as priority is found at this stage, but priority will be found here for Mammoth in the bottom side as they are pushing in to start things off here. They're going to be looking to be quite aggressive, given the strong early game nature. Should have a slight trading advantage depending on the weapons that Gunkrab has available to him at the time on this Aphelios.
Yeah, Gunkrab's CSing pretty well here, actually. I was expecting him to miss 1 or 2 under the turret there, but seems to be dead even CS if he can make these last 2, which I think he will. Not much happening.
Weapon set up right now. He can definitely respond to the harassment that is in Boma, allowing to dish himself out. Lisa just going to drive on by through mid, showcase where he's up to.
Now,
Scuttle spawn, that's actually going to be double scuttles.
Yeah, there's no worse feeling in the world as a jungler than getting double scuttled. That's just like someone coming into your home, you know, having a seat on your couch, eating some food in the kitchen before they leave. So Lisa's just
walks in, opens up your fridge and says, my food.
Yep, and that's what Lisa's done, and he's looking for the Gromp reset timer too, potentially goes in there and hangs around, but he's hit the Vision Bloom, which then gives away where he is, but he's looking to contest the Wolves. I wonder if he got that.
Not sure if he did, but he definitely made sure that Bass had to go back to base. Has gone very defensively.
Yeah, so he's
coming back to lane. I was wondering if he was going to be parving back to the base itself, but Avant have taken an opportunity now to force the pressure and force a response. Ends up playing from Bass to hang around in the area, has proved out right now. It's a 4v3, the numbers favouring Avant. Can they find themselves first blood here 4 minutes in? The max range hook from Appy, connected with the exhaust. A flash forward from Chaz. Zoe has the mobility, and Zoe has the kills.
That's a really well executed dive from the Avant lineup. I was about to comment on how Baz read this dive really well, because from base he pathed straight bot, but you know, maybe the best thing for Mammoth to do there would be to stay on the turret so they had an extra member assisting them in that dive. But nevertheless, this is the type of aggression we see from Avant, and why we've called them the early game kings. They're able to find these windows of opportunity, you know, pretty much without fail in almost all the games we see them.
And that's such a beautiful gank on multiple fronts. One, you've allowed your bot lane to find a bit of a lead in terms of CS, get themselves some extra gold, but also, you know, trying to find an early advantage before Chungy can then try and influence it in his own accord with that ultimate.
Yeah, and I mean, they did that at level 5, right? Level 5, Chungy had no mana left as well, so it really was just the perfect timing coming out of Chaz there. And this is what I spoke about Chaz yesterday, is I consider him, you know, if I had to say he had a similar playstyle to someone else in the OPL, it is similar to a Tally, right? You know, often able to influence side lanes and get leads for other members that he's playing with. And, you know, he left that play with the kill himself, so whilst he helped bot lane a substantial amount, he's definitely got himself a kill.
Certainly has, and that's going to be a lost chapter to make life a little bit easier before the blue buffs start to go his way. Returning to the bot lane now, bit of a deficit, to a bit of a difference, I should say, as Gunkrab returns with a BF sword, whereas in Boma, given the fact is Kalista, opts for the tier 2 boots right at the door.
Yeah, but that's standard from Kalista, right? If Kalista had 1300 gold, she's not going for a BF sword, she'll still go for the Berserker Greave, so...
Helps with a dash, makes life easier.
Yep. But
Lisa's now going to start off the very first dragon of the game, keep Mammoth at bay, keep them underneath their tower, keep Bass in check.
Nice trade from Chaz there. TF has Corrupting Potion though, so not going to be too worried about the loss of health there. TF has level 6 now, okay? So what we need to see now is what is Chungy going to do with his level 6? Is he going to use the bot side? Nautilus has no flash, no mobility, can't really get out of the gag, especially if Artek wants to walk forward and utilize the flay and start an engage early. But problem is that Chaz just has perma-prio mids pushing it in, and if Chungy wants to move and decides that he wants to assist the lane, then he's going to lose out on it.
Yeah, every lane pushed against him at this stage, so we'll definitely have a fair few options available to him, but you'd want to see it coordinated with Bass, and you'd imagine that's what they're waiting for right now, because he does not have his ultimate just yet. But it's the strength of Pat Price. If he can cycle for those cooldowns, especially use his W on repeat, a ton of sustain and a ton of bonus damage. You saw the crit appear on your screen.
I mean, you know what? Liv is faring very, very well in this lane though, right? You know, we weren't too sure how Kayle would go in it. Potentially it has the same, you know, power curve as the Kayle into the Ornn, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing right now.
Best possible situation for Liv is to be left to his own device as a Kayle. Bridge the gap. Those first few items online, and look to be the deciding factor that could allow them to transition from early to late and have the insane damage that we know Kales can output. But 8 minutes comes around, it will be Avant in the driving seat that pulls out the lane rotation. Liv did have a bit of an understanding that was to be the case and responded to the lane swap first, but it's not going to be without Avant still coming out ahead here. The fact that they can push in those plates, they can get some extra CS, deny some CS, but also pick up the Herald, a massive win for them.
Yeah, it's really good macro coming out of Avant, right? You don't expect the bot lane with Kalista, with Thresh to be the ones losing out on tempo and losing the neutral objective. So they've lost the Infernal Drake, they've now lost the Rift Herald, and just really well played from Avant. You know, the moment you flip first, if you can get that priority and that tempo to do so, then 3 objectives, and when this Rift Herald goes down, it's potentially going to be the first turret. As we see, top lane turret is nearly in execute range of Rift Herald.
Certainly is, and that's what's allowing Gunkrab to find a sizable lead in his favour. Not only the assist, but the turret plates he's achieved as well. Chaz, despite missing a wave to go for that gank, isn't all too punished, but let's hold that for a second, as Packrice is going to look for the all-in. He's going to use the Stormbringer from downtown and jump on his head. Out comes the ultimate as a response, and Liv is in a whole world of trouble right now. Jukes him with the Fog of War, hits him with the wings.
Well, now Mammoth have a little bit of a win condition that's been activated, right? You know, Liv winning the 1v1 this early, it's almost criminal behavior to have a Kayle solo kill you at level 8 Kale isn't necessarily known as a champion that has a strong early game. More importantly, Kale probably starts to come online at around level 11, and the fact that Kale is now, you know, 1 kill ahead, CS ahead, and potentially a turret plate or two could spell disaster for AV.
Cutlass, kiting, fog of war, and vision control, utilizing everything available to him in that lane state. Both had the burn flash, but both using everything it took to allow them to unlock their win condition as quickly as possible. So it's a good sign right here now for Mammoth, and it's continued progression really with Livs switching from the mid lane into top.
Yeah, and I mean, because we've been talking about Paprise and how strong he's been this split for Avant, and the fact that Liv manages to pick up the solo kill in isolation, no assistance whatsoever from either parties, really goes to talk about the transition that Liv has made.
Well, how will Avant look to try and address this one? They haven't ganked it, they haven't shown any attention to it. All eyes have been on the spot lane, giving Gunkrab all the resources possible so he can hit the power spike first, so he can try and shut down the Callista threat, make sure that the early game is non-existent, and that there is no mid-game for them to look forward to.
Well, I feel like the game's almost at a point where it doesn't matter if you visit Kale's lane now. Most of the damage needed to be done a little bit earlier, but you know, AV decided to do damage in the bot side of the map as opposed to top, and it worked out well for them, but
still playing around that condition, however. That's going to be a flash and a cleanse burn out here by Chuggy as a 3-man collapse showcased mid. A ton of CC was ready to be deployed, and Chaz was hungry on the hunt as well. And that's a nice little pickup here that's going to prevent Chuggy finding value and even using his ultimate again. But more importantly, not going to be as big a threat with this next Dragon up in 30.
And so we'll see them just do that Dragon off cooldown. Not necessarily sure if Mammoth would want to contest, but I guess the concerning thing here is that we haven't seen Chungi be proactive with this ultimate. We haven't seen him use the Twisted Fate ult yet. Baz looking for a gank in the top side. No sums from Paprise. He's just going to be falling down.
He's going to try and run away at this stage. The game's going to be brought straight back in towards those minions. It's going to be Kale that picks up the kill with an assist going to Bass. Now 2-0 on the Kale. Lived. He is looking to live. He is looking to love. And he's having a lot of fun in this lane so far.
Yeah, win condition online, Skimmy. I think we can officially say that this Kale is well on the way to being the hyper carry that we know. Level 9, uninterrupted. Getting solo turret plates in the top side of the map as well. So, you know, once Kale hits that base, going to have that first item completed, and this lane is only going to get harder and harder for the Volibear.
Certainly is, and we talked about, you know, what would be the matchups that are best to try and address the Volibear. Well, it seemed like the skirmishes did not favour him at this stage, and that Lived is definitely finding success to make sure he hits that level 11, those all-important level 16 moments as well. Two teams with two very different ideas as to what they want to try and bring online first. It's going to be a battle of the AD carry, probably most likely a battle of the range as to who can kill quicker from afar.
Yeah, battle from range, and you know, we saw yesterday how much range an Aphelios has when he has the right gun cycled. So by no means is Aphelios, and more importantly Gunkrab, no slouch. It'll be pretty much a battle of the carries, right? Who can do it? Is Liv going to carry the game, or can Gunkrab? Because in this current game, you know, Gunkrab is a player that's fairly accelerated. Look at gold comparison between Mboma and Gunkrab is about 1,000 and a bit a piece, and Lived in the top side much of the same.
Yep, 1,500 in the bot lane, as you say, and that's the majority of the gold that separates these two teams at this stage of the game. Gunblade has now just come online, but that's going to be matched with the Infinity Edge on the Aphelios as well. Despite all this, Avant will continue to be the ones forcing really the pressure on the map as to what they want to do. They want to force it on their terms. They're the ones that found the first two turrets, very traditional. That's what they like to do. As a full collapse comes through mid, they're going to find that kill onto Callista. Now Twist of Fate comes on in, but not getting able to do too much because he has no summoners. And now Bass, underneath his tower, makes them kiss. But unable to do much more than that. It's not going to be pretty for them in this stage of the game as Zappy just faces out beautifully there with his stopwatch. He's going to fall on down as the casualty of war. But in the grand scheme of things, Avant have to be happy with that.
Yeah, and we saw a cute little interaction there. The first time we've seen a Volibear, you know, own wrecker a turret and execute a dive in between two in the mid lane, and Gunkrab and Avant Gaming come out on top. Here we have the replay, so really aggressive. This is what we talk about Avant early game, so aggressive. Paprise ends up denying the second turret there, not actually the first one where majority of the damage was coming from, but nevertheless, they have to be happy with that result. You know, silver lining on this play here is that Liv did come pick up the kill on Appy, so there's a killing spree onto Liv, and whilst it's a good play for AV, you can't take your eyes off his KO.
Certainly can't. That was a 4v5, mind you, because Liv was free farming underneath the top tier 2. Only joins into that fight at the last minute, but picks up a kill, mind you. So we talk about all things considered, Avant having to be happy with that one. Maybe more so favouring Mammoth.
Gunkrab has got his Infinity Edge now, so we often like to do checks when there's Aphelios in a game specifically. We like to do item checks, especially when he's ahead of the curve and not really behind. 10 CS per minute, 3 assists, Infinity Edge complete, so potentially clock ticking on both sides.
Certainly is, as to who can reach those 2 item spikes first and who can look to try and utilise the macro as a result of that better to showcase that true strength. Stoneplate and the tabbies on Appy, so they can continue to be aggressive, as will Volibear no doubt looking to use his ultimate to disable the turrets as well, acting as a returning Ohm Wrecker.
Mount and Drake, you got to be a little bit disappointed if you're AV, right? You know, Volibear doesn't just build straight tank stats. So, you know, Trinity Force coming on through, sometimes followed up by the Death Dance, Graves, Jungle, Zoe in the mid lane. Nautilus is really the only one that's going to be building pure tank items. So, Mountain Soul not going to be of the highest value. By no means is it a terrible dragon, but, you know, if you're an AD fan, you probably would have preferred to see the Infernal or the Ocean Soul. Having that Zoe with the Infernal pop would have been nice.
Probably out of the 4, on a general standpoint, probably ranked 3. That's going to be a cleanse instantly being burned. Not going to take any chances there is Chungy in the 1v1 up against the Zoe.
Chungy is up EXP though. That probably comes down to like most of the sieging that AD has done in the mid lane. They've often had 3 or 4 members there sharing EXP and, you know, a little bit of a sacrifice EXP for some gold, so.
Different opinions as to what they value as to get themselves online as quickly as possible, but Liv now juggling with the vision game. Paprise smells that something is a little bit peculiar and is not going to give in to continuing to push that wave.
Kale, so Kale has hit level 11, which is just going to make it that much harder for Paprise. You know, if you thought level 6 was bad, the amplification Kale gets from leveling ulti up to 11 is substantial. So it's just going to be harder and harder for Paprise to sit in this lane, and it's not like AV have that global ultimate of TF to try and pick the side. But what they're doing is the right thing here. They're just brute forcing mid lane. Okay, KO, you can sit in the side lane. You're extremely fed, but we're just going to force down mid lane.
Certainly are. And take a quick stock check of Gunkrab's items there. Actually picked up 2 cloaks, so sitting on 65% critical chance. They're really going to try and find themselves some instant online power. Hope the RNG is in their favour, but the trade is here. Yes, you push a turret as a 4-5 man unit. I've summoned a Herald that's acted as all your teammates, and we're going to get more.
You have to be happy with that trade if you're Mammoth, right? You know, you're just playing reactionary. Avant are the ones being proactive, pushing down mid as a team, but Baz just drops the Rook already on top side of the map, and this is the 3rd dragon, sure, but potentially we're at a point now in 5 minutes where when the next dragon spawns, and we're talking about Mountain Soul, Mammoth can fight. I know it won't be KO level 16, but potentially KO is just so accelerated in this game that, you know, level 13, 14, or 15 is enough to fight.
I just think, you look at the amount of protection tools they have, right? Between the Callista Fate's Call, as well as the Divine Judgment as well. The grit that can no doubt come out here from Set. And then, obviously, when Azonia's is complete, sitting on stop by trying out for Twisted Fate. There's just so much denial that the AV one-shot come on in with the Slam Jam. It's just someone that can try and play around with. It kind of feels a little bit similar in a way to a turret composition where you've got a bit of time to play around and see if you can find a big win on cooldown usage.
Yeah, well, the problem Mammoth will have though is that if AV are first to the objective and have Zoe in river, then Kale is going to have to preemptively use ultimate if Zoe lands a bubble on pretty much any of the Mammoth targets, because they will be one shot. So AV's composition will have a lot of success the moment Mammoth decide they need to start face checking neutral objectives, and that's where we'll really see AV maybe run away with the game, or Mammoth find the optimal team fight that they want, because if you do blow the Kale ult preemptively and AV just choose to disengage, you can no longer fight the neutral objective. These ultimates coming out of Mammoth are just so crucial to whether or not they can contest.
And they know that is what their game plan is. They've been in the full control when it comes to objectives. 3 dragons to their name, continued the siege all 19 minutes long. Gunkrab
Look at
farming
that.
over 10 CS per minute. The man is a monster. Got the Zeal online right now, looking to make everything happen. Just chucks at the Moonlight Vigil because he has the AoE. Why not use that flamethrower from afar and give Lived a bit of a taste of what the instant strength looks like at this stage of the game.
Yep, and we're seeing Gunkrab with the flamethrower just chunking Lived out for a quarter of his health. A third of his health. So Gunkrab Aphelios definitely getting to the scary point of the game where even a Kale is finding it hard to hold turret and stand next to him, and we're just seeing a brute force, really, just turret going down, and that's what it looks like. So the Moonlight Vigil comes down, chunked Mboma, and another objective goes the way of AV.
And they have so many good zoning tools, right? The hook there from the Nautilus, the smoke screen from the Graves, as well as the trouble bubbles there from Chaz to make sure that if anybody is there to defend, they've got to be damn well good on their feet to juke out those things. Because the game plan you can see there from Mammoth was try and stop the bleeding, try and prevent Avant achieving maximum value. We just want to keep investing in that Twisted Fate and get some split push pressure.
Yep. And sometimes it's very easy to, like, you know, lose stock of the gold lead and what that means. And so Mammoth know that they're behind, and the one way that they can avoid this gold lead completely is what they're doing, right? They have TF in the side lane, and so it looks like AV is getting a lot done, but all they did there was break one bot turret, got a little bit of gold for it, while TF got time in the side lane, and EXP. TF was getting solo EXP, while the EXP that AV was sharing was, hang on a minute.
That was very good, actually, there.
Yep.
There's going to be Papyrus using his ultimate to become unstoppable, deny out the gold card ultimate in there, and a 2v1, and make sure that Liv does not even get even more fed.
Did he lock gold card?
I believe so.
Okay, because, yeah, I don't know if he locked the gold card or what that was, but it looked like Volibear wasn't CC'd, but potentially has the Tenacity Rune as well as Merc Tread, so gold card isn't going to be doing much to Volibear at this point in the game, but...
Yeah, he becomes immune to CC in his animation when he's leaping.
Yeah,
so I believe he just traded ultimate for ultimate.
Yeah, fair. That's why you're the brains and I'm the beauty.
You are the beauty, mate. You are a Calvin Klein model after all. That's what we discussed and found out in the spawn bag only moments prior to this game. 21 minutes in. As you say, the gold lead does favour Avant. They're up by 4,000. They've just hit the Runans on the Aphelios as well. Everything has been invested into this man from start to finish here. And they are going to be banking on a decisive team fight win. One that potentially could be happening in under 60 seconds with a Mountain Soul up for play here.
Yep, and Mountain Soul for me is a dragon that is a little bit underrated. I think it is very nice to have, especially when you're playing carries, just getting that additional shield and, you know, feeling... It's almost like a mental warfare, right? Like, you see the shields on the enemy team and you think, okay, we had to win a team fight before, that was hard, but now they've got this little shield that's additional to what we had to get through, so maybe a little bit of mental warfare for Mountain Soul.
Every little helps, although I don't think it's going to be the biggest thing they're going to be playing for. Potentially Mammoth just say you can have that Mountain Soul. We want to play for Elders, we want to play for Barons. That is far more important at this stage of the game. Quite happy with obviously how things are going at this stage. Continuing to farm, continuing to allow Liv to scale on up. He's now sitting at level 13.
The one thing Mammoth have done well this game is they've managed to stop the bleeding, right? What was a fast-paced early game from Avant where they set the tempo, pushed the pace, and really extended that gold lead. They were able to keep it at 4,000 and not really bleed any major objectives. Yes, they've dropped their tier 2 turrets, but, you know, Baron's still up, Soul's going down now, so it's going to be up to AV to decide what they do next. Are they going to set up around Baron? Because again, we talk about this Zoe. It's going to be so hard for Mammoth to face check any neutral objective. And I think Mammoth realized that. That's why they were so happy to give away Soul. And, you know, they're probably hoping by the time Elder Drake comes around, Kale is level 16 and just full beast mode.
What's to be expected, and as you say, give yourself a window, give yourself a clear timer for everybody now to see. You put yourself on that timer. These next 5.5 minutes are absolutely crucial here. 2 levels. No doubt we're going to see that happen. But they have a ton of damage now starting to come online. The 2 core components necessary for a Twisted Fate, a Kale, and now, as you can see, the Runan's been matched here by the Callista. A little ability to lock members in place there with the Gunblade as well as the Blade of the Rune King.
Kale again, just getting time in this side lane, breaking turrets, and the one thing Mammoth can do with this composition is they really can avoid team fighting. Twisted Fate if need be, can hover this Kale, and potentially they just look for turret dive onto Volibear. Remember, they have Kale ultimate. Kale is going to be doing a significant amount of damage to Volley at this time, so maybe this is something that Mammoth really do look towards, because if Volley goes down and they have access to these bot lane turrets, then they're going to just get one-shot, right? TF with that Leech Brain, Kale at this point in the game going to do so much damage, and maybe that's what we need to see. We just see TF hover the Kale and look to make it happen, but...
Yeah, certainly are, and they can't afford that to happen right now, because obviously that then really hinder their ability to continue to be so damn aggressive, and that is what they're going to do. They're going to say, look, we don't want to play into their playstyle. Their strategy is try and catch on out, try and break an inhibitor, trade the inhib for the Baron. That's the Baron now being started here by Avant, smashing through its health bar, getting close to smite range. It's going to flash on in. It's not going to be stolen away here today. And it is going to be Liv Dish dying before it can flash, before Divine Judgment can be used. So anticlimactic for what we hyped to be the turning point here for Mammoth. 2 people falling on down. Baron buff is huge. And so is the Bear finding revenge for what was a very frustrating 25 minutes.
Yeah, and this is the AV that we've gotten to know and love. Just pulling the trigger, no fear, and just forcing the hand of Mammoth, right? You know, Mammoth were happy in this game, just letting the game stall out and scale, but watch Chungi flash over the wall here, go for the smite. He has the spell book TF, but too clean, and doesn't matter what level your Kale is, if he's TPing into a fight and just getting completely CC'd by Nautilus and one-shot. Really good decision-making from Avant, really decisive, and, you know, we'll give him a B for execution, because they did let Chungi get into the pit and flip it with a smite, but nevertheless, AV come out ahead and extend that gold lead.
Mammoth potentially just being a little bit too angsty in their approach there. Liv actually acting as a frontline CC'd, unable to play the game, Jews. Unable to do much at all there, and that's a scary situation for them. The 4K gold lead that Avant had only moments prior now balloons to 8,000. Time continues to tick, 3 minutes towards their Elder. A second opportunity, and the ability for them to try and rethink their way of approaching this next skirmish.
The Elder Drake in 250, and sometimes getting Soul is risky business, because you leave the game open for an Elder flip, right? We saw Chungi get that smite, flash into the pit and try and steal it. You know, sometimes you're up against 2 smites and it does become a little bit dangerous, so maybe that's what Mammoth are going to be hoping for next time around. Getting 2 smites, getting into the pit, trying to steal it, because at this point in the game, when you give away the Baron buff and you're up against the Zoe, it's so hard to hold your base.
All the work they worked towards achieving in the start of this game, 7 turrets to 3, allowed them to have so much vision control, and this plays so perfectly into what Avant are wanting to do, right? Set themselves up, be the first one to that objective, poke Mammoth from afar. And if they do then decide to try and fully commit, well, they've got the CC then to find that pick target and deny any kind of response. So really going to be up to Mammoth here to try and find priorities in this lane, but incredibly hard when the Baron buff inspires these minions.
Yep, and we'll probably see now just AV break their base open with a 4-1 split. Not much that Mammoth can do in terms of holding, right? Their composition doesn't
just gone again.
come with...
Just gone again, and there's no response, no flash, no ultimate. Everything being invested into here on the Kale, just unable to find any form of luck. Chez says this is why we are the team to hype up. This is why we are the team to find success with. We are aggressive, we are early game orientated, and we never lost sight of what our game plan was. That's a Stormbringer that denies both the Nexus turrets, and they can really tell what I think a Nexus dive, quite honestly, and Aphelios does Season 10 things.
Yeah, I mean...
You're your fountain, you can't run away, Jubes. That's going to be the game, that's going to be the end, that's going to be the victory screen. The flares go out, the emote meta is on point, he goes golden, but he's going to go silver today because they're going to come second place. That's the ace, and that is GG for Avant.
Avant icon flares, very nice white flag surrender from Lisa, but, you know, this was a good game from Avant, right? You know, we were feeling the pressure a little bit of the Kale ramping up, picking up some free kills and scaling, but the one kind of sign of a really good team is when, you know, the enemy team would say, have your number in the scaling department, but you're able to just slowly, cleanly, and precisely to play the game out, right? And that's what AV did. They didn't panic. They didn't really send numbers to the Kale and get 1v2'd. They just played to their composition strengths and started the Baron when they felt like it was the right time to do it. And, you know, after that Baron went down, it was really over in a matter of minutes. So really clean game from Avant.
Certainly was. One that, you'd had to feel for Paparizzi there in the start of the game. He wasn't able to get the lane king that we've seen him really achieve so far coming into Split 2, but was definitely able to turn it around in some very clinical moments to close out that game. It's going to be a much needed victory for them to keep the momentum in their favour. Unfortunate here for Mammoth. The first step of their victory yesterday is unable to be replicated here today. We're going to jump to a quick break, and when we return, it's our third game of the night. It is Order taking on Gravitas.
Today is the NeoSurf Cup, and we're going to be playing against Misfits, so hopefully we can bring home the win.
NeoSurf is simple, safe and secure. You can go to your local shop and get a voucher code and use it online, preferably to buy League of Legends skins.
He's got it! It's deadly! He's got it!
Welcome to the 2020 OPL. I am Nick Boy Richardson.
And that's a beautiful hemo play onto multiple members. He gets himself a double kill.
It's Ray's doing what he does, the Fight King.
We love everybody. We love the OPL.
If you're craving the taste of your favourites, head to Macca's for a fast, safe and contactless drive-through experience. For your Macca's run, contact-free, we'll be here.